Welcome to the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. I'm Shannon Kinney-Duh, creator of AFreeSpiritLife.com.
And I'm Ashley Walburn, owner of Home Holistic. And together, we are bringing you the Mindful Mama Movement,
the podcast, community, and retreats for women in all stages of motherhood. Mindful mothering is about nurturing your heart and soul while you nurture your children. It's about consciously awakening to your inner wisdom and being peacefully present as a mama, no matter where you are on your journey. From discovering your newborn to loving and accepting the wonderful people who've left your nest.
The Mindful Mama Movement is bringing women together from across the world to celebrate the imperfect journey of motherhood.
Our movement is empowering mamas to be authentic and to live inspired lives. We are so happy you're here. The Mindful Mama Movement, episode number 4. In today's show, it is Q&A time with our community. If you are not a member of our community yet, the Mindful Mama Movement group on Facebook, you've got to join it today. We'll share the link in the show notes, so hop on over there. That's where all the discussions are going and all the relationship building, and that's where we're getting the questions from. So each month we are planning to do a Q&A show from our community, and today is our first one. So Ashley's here with me.
Hi, welcome everybody.
So, should we just get started?
Let's get started.
Okay. Ashley's going to read a question. We've picked out, there's several questions that we have saved. If we don't read your question today, we are sharing those on the group page. But yeah, we've just found some that kind of resonate, I think, with most of our group.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Nichelle and Amy both had really similar questions, and we are going to try to group together questions so we can answer as many of you as possible. Nichelle asked, how do you feel confident that you are giving your children the time and focus they need so that you can then feel okay about focusing on you, your fitness, hobbies, personal growth? And then Amy asks similarly, how do we build ourselves back up after becoming a mama, especially for those who don't have family or friends nearby? Shannon?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so those are some good questions, and where do I even start? I feel like, how do you feel confident giving to your children? I know this so well because, with my young kids, 5, how old are they? 8 and 2. I've talked about this before, but I really do feel like there was a period where I really got lost in that motherhood. And I really want to know what other people feel, because I feel like that's kind of what Amy's saying when she says, building yourself back up after becoming a mom. It's like your entire world, your body, your everything is not how you once knew it.
Yeah, I remember feeling like taking a shower one time and being like, you, speaking to my body, are really unfamiliar to me.
I am still saying that. And it's true. And it's like, I feel like we're fed these kind of messages that it should, be back to the way it was. And I think the building up from motherhood thing, for me, it's kind of like, I did feel like I got lost a little bit and had to kind of like swim out of it. And so how do you do that? Well, for one, I felt like I had to really be in touch with my freakouts. Like I hit a breaking point where I really was like feeling like I wasn't getting anything other than just laundry and dishes and serving everyone's needs. And I was suffering because of it. Yeah. I wasn't, in my creative things that I wanted to do were suffering. And so the reason that I know, I'm trying to combine these into one answer, but it's like when Nichelle says, how do you feel confident that you are giving your children? Maybe that's even a different question. I'm going to go back to that for a second. I almost like want to switch it. It's like I started feeling confident that I was giving my kids what they needed when I was giving myself what I needed.
Me too.
You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And because I was giving them everything. I was giving them every hour of the night, every hour of the day to the point of complete depletion. And so that right there was saying I had no confidence whatsoever because I wasn't giving to myself. Once I started rebuilding that, it's like when I'm happier, then I'm completely confident I'm giving my child what they need. I
Yeah.
know that's kind of what I'm saying,
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel really exactly the same that everybody knows I had my last three babies in 2.5 years. And so I just kind of kept getting pregnant. And so I was pregnant or breastfeeding without stopping. By the time my fourth baby was born, I'd been pregnant or breastfeeding without stopping for 4 years. And I look at pictures of myself now and like my eyes look kind of vacant and my smile looks so like not like myself. And I know now when I look at those pictures that I wasn't embodied at all. I was really just shuffling through my day and I was getting a lot of stuff done. I for sure felt like I was saving lives and, wiping butts. That was what my day looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and somebody said to me, like, what do you do? Like, so you can do this, so you can take care of your kids. And it was like a light bulb for me, a moment. And I was like, nothing. I do nothing for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
go, 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 go. That's what I do. And I started practicing yoga, and that was a really game changer for me. Um, and also taking what I would call like sacred baths, where my kids weren't allowed to come in, that my husband like had to deal with them for 30 minutes. And I really felt like I was revisiting myself. And I don't think it's yoga or baths for everybody, but like, what is it for you that makes you feel more like yourself? Then you're giving that part of yourself to your children easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I feel exactly the
Mhm.
same. That's what happened to me. And so in the winter, I started taking my hotter than hot,
Burn your
and
skin.
lock the door baths.
Yeah.
And I could just feel stepping into that water. Like I'd light a candle. Sometimes I'd, listen to music. Sometimes not. Sometimes I have a book. Sometimes I wouldn't. But it was just that you could hear the footsteps in the hallway, and I
Mhm.
just knew nobody could get in. And I would get in the water,
That's what the footsteps.
and they'd be banging on the door until they got used to it.
Yeah.
They're like, what is this new thing that mom's doing? She's always available. No, not during this time. And I would get in that water and just like feel like I want to cry. Like I just like, but it was like a returning, like, oh my God, this is, and it's that reset. And, and then I started walking, and that was my other thing that I still do. But it's so funny because when I go back to that lost in motherhood stage, like I wouldn't even find time to walk. I wasn't walking. I didn't think I could find the time to even do that. And now I won't miss it. And so I think, like Amy's question about coming back after becoming a mom, it's like finding that one thing that Ashley said and then do it consistently and tell the people in your family that this is what you need. And then all of a sudden, it's like they just expect it. They're like, they're not gonna, mom's in the tub or mom's on the walk or mom's going to yoga class or whatever it is that you need. They're gonna understand, and they're also gonna feel the benefit of it because you're just feeling better and more like your new self
Yeah.
and happier.
Yeah. It feels like you hear in yoga classes or kind of self-help books, like your true self or your highest self. And for me, it just feels like my real self. Like I feel like Ashley gets to parent these kids, or Ashley is having a conversation with a friend when I'm doing these things. And so then it's like I'm running toward those things. I know that I'm having a bath today at 6 o'clock, and that helps me make it through the rest of the day. I
Mm-hmm.
remember one time my husband said to me, maybe you ought to go to yoga today. And I was like, oh, are you, like I knew that meant I was probably being grouchy, and that I probably should go to yoga. But I also was like, oh, I'm not going to yoga today, dude. Like you don't like what you're getting. But I really remember that like one time he was like patting me or something like, aren't you going to go to yoga in a little bit?
Exactly.
What must that have meant? But also that they realized that those things that were sacred, my bath and my yoga class, made me a better mom and made me a better partner.
And also, in addition to that, is just schedule it and then protect it with your life. Because I think we as moms, I know I do this even still. I just, in fact, before this recording, I had a call with my husband. And Thursday nights are my nights to, that's when I work. And I go to the coffee shop and I sit and I put my headphones on. And sometimes I just zone out, or sometimes but it's that uninterrupted, but that's my time. And that's one of the times we've agreed to in our family. But every so often, he's stressed out about something and he'll make a comment like, "Oh, this is gonna," like he'll forget it's that night. And there's a part of me that thinks, "Oh, okay, if I can switch things around, if you really," but no. And he's really good. He says, "No, you need to do this." Like he snaps me out of it a lot of times. And so protect it until you feel that grounding in you and that confidence in you, that that this is good for everybody. Because I just think we do that, don't you?
Yeah, I think that we think we're taking away from our family if we leave them. And what meant, it took me a lot of years to not have that mom guilt, especially I think because I was a single mom. And so it was like, I have to do everything, which also made me a little bit, I think, of a martyr. Like I'm the one doing everything. But then once I was doing it, then I realized I was giving to them so much better. I was giving to them the best part of myself, not all the time, but more often. And so that little bit of time away that became very, very sacred also became sacred to them.
Yeah, so that goes the wrap up here for Nichelle when she says, how can you feel confident when you're starting to put your own needs in check with taking care of your kids? I think that's it, is just check out, it's like a radar. Like every single day, every single moment, we have to kind of see how are things today. And today is different than yesterday. And what you need even today is different as what your kids need. So you're just finding that new balance for you in that moment. And that confidence will continue because you're going to see it. And so if you are gone all the time and you work full time and then you go work out after work and you don't get to see your kids very often and you see that everyone's, blowing up or missing you, just have that radar going, well, maybe, my kid needs a little more me time right now. Or, just the confidence will come when you're just being more aware and making sure that your needs are in alignment to the needs of your family.
Great.
Yeah. Cool. So that kind of goes into the next, are we going to guilt now? Mama
Yep,
guilt?
mama
That's
guilt.
kind of, related here. How about if I read the question this time?
Great.
So we've got Amy Lou. She's asking about grouchiness, gratitude, and guilt. I like that. I'm learning on my mindfulness journey that it's totally possible to be insanely grateful and still feel grouchy. And only recently am I learning that I don't need to feel so guilty about it. I'm interested to see how other mamas balance these three. How do we balance the grouchiness, the gratitude, and the guilt? And really, how do we let go of some of that guilt so we're not carrying it? How about you, Ash?
It reminds me of, I think it's like a Chinese proverb. I'm not really sure, but there is something just about these two men were on a journey and one of them made like a mistake, did something that was like a sin. This is old, but it's a beautiful story. And like 6 hours later, the other friend is like, I cannot believe you did that. And the guy that made the sin was like, oh, I can't believe you're still carrying that with you. I left that back at the river. And that my husband and I read that years ago because we make mistakes every single day. And with 4 boys and careers and trying to manage a partnership, we for sure make mistakes every single day. And if we hold it with us, it poisons us. Like, let it go as soon as it's over, like peeling away a layer of an onion. Like, I don't need this to poison me and to keep poisoning me and my children. And so I love that, just like to let it go as soon as it's done. And if you do, then it becomes just a part of your history, but not a part of what's happening right now. What do you think about that? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And I think, I can't remember what book I was reading, but this really struck me. She was talking about how natural it is for kids to, they make a mistake or they, have a moment, they freak out, whatever happens, they express it, they feel it, and then they let it go. But we as adults, we tend to repress or we replay it over and over and over. And like Ashley said, we carry it for sometimes a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so bottom line is there is no right emotion. We all get grumpy. We all feel gratitude. We all are happy and have celebrations. And then we have super big challenges. And our mind wants to label those and judge them as right, wrong, good, bad. And so what we tend to do is we want to put on this face, this front. I have a friend of mine who used to always, I'd ask her how she was, and everything's perfect. And the thing is, it's just what it is. It's just how we are in this moment. And if you allowed yourself to feel it, even get in that hot bath, get in the hot bath and cry it out. We do things that we feel really regretful for. We scream at our children sometimes. We get triggered. Get in the bath or do something, journal, whatever it is to let it out, to release it. And then it's done, and a new day begins.
A new day begins.
Yeah.
My husband sometimes says, oh, there she goes. That like once I get started on like, I cannot believe you guys haven't, cleaned up your breakfast mess yet. And then I'm mad about their shoes being out. And then I'm mad about like, when was the last time you took a shower? And he'll be like, oh, there she goes. We're getting started. This is going to last all day. I now notice if I haven't eaten well, and I'm kind of notorious. Like I generally like go right to my coffee in the morning and skip breakfast. And then I'm a little bit grouchier and just more reactive as the day goes on. But if I've eaten well and I've had a good night's sleep, I do feel more like myself. If I've practiced yoga, if I've taken that 30 or 50-minute bath, that I feel more like myself. And so stuff doesn't trigger me to be so grouchy. And I do think the same thing happens with our children, that I notice my kids don't do well with sugar, for instance. Two of my kids literally act like they're insane and they start laughing uncontrollably. And my husband and I sometimes will be like, okay, they're laughing. Like they're happy. And I'm like, they're really not laughing. They're like crazy. Like they can't stop themselves. They can't stop themselves. And so we also know that they're kind of crazier at different times if they haven't slept well. One of my kids, Cole, used to like really like freak out and he'd start crying and he might like push one of his brothers when he was littler. And we would be like, okay, like you can't be out here, like in the living room with us if you're going to be mean. And so we just like go say like, you have to go like lay in your bed for 10 minutes. And then if you feel nice, you can come back out. And he never would come back out. He'd always fall asleep. And we're like, oh, he was tired. That's why he was so grouchy.
Yeah. So being in touch with, she's asking, how do you balance the three? I think it's a really great question. And it's like, you know what? Allow yourself to be grouchy, but then check in. What am I grouchy about right now? Is it simply I've just missed lunch? I didn't get any sleep last night. These kids are insane and I just need a break. I've been with them 24 hours a day for 20 days in a row, whatever it is, just to check in with yourself. And then the guilt, let it go. Stop holding it on. Let it go. We all make mistakes. We all wish we had done it better yesterday, but that's, why we get a new day. A new day is beginning. And then the gratitude, I try to is my own personal self-care ritual is every night before I go to bed. That's kind of my way to sleep more peacefully is I try to tap in. I try to let that stuff go and then I tap into the gratitude. What am I most thankful for? So I'm not focusing on what I didn't do right, but what is working, and that just helps me. And so that's the balance, is just, yeah, there's much to be grateful for, even if it's your own breath, even if you just got through a really, really crappy day. There is gratitude in that moment. We get to sleep. We might not sleep very well, but we get to like lay in the dark even in a bed, and instead of replaying that guilt and the grouchiness, focus on your gratitude and see if that helps as you're going to sleep. Yeah.
Great.
So that leads us to, I think, our final question with Lisa. You want to read her question?
Yep.
Is it my turn or yours? Go ahead.
I think I'll read it.
All right.
Okay. Lisa asks, I would love to know your tips and strategies for raising happy and confident children. My little guy tends to get emotional, sometimes overly, when he doesn't win, isn't getting first, not getting attention. He can really be hard on himself and say things like, I never win, I never get to go first, nobody wants to be my friend, all of which aren't true. I'm honestly at a loss of what to say. Thanks for your help.
Yeah, it's a good one. So I think that kind of again ties into what we're talking about with there's no really right emotion. Our kids, if they show a lot of emotion, it doesn't mean they're too emotional. It's just, that's just how they express themselves in the world. That's their natural tendency. And of course, we have to learn how to fit into, there's certain situations, that we have to kind of learn how to balance that, learn how to express it properly. But we're here to kind of guide our children to not then judge themselves that that's not a good way to express themselves, but it's just that's their natural tendency. And so I don't know if I have like the right answer on what to say in those moments, but in my own life, I have a 5-year-old, Ashton, and he is one of those just, God, the sweetest little honeys, just a sensitive, sweet, sweet soul. And he's also highly emotional. He very laid back kid, but to a point, and then if something's really bothering him or he'll explode or he'll share it, usually through either high pitched screaming. Boys scream, guys. Seriously, like my ears bleed. Screams. Or, and so we have to work through. So I kind of try to focus on, for one thing, seeing what, are his needs. Has his needs for the day been met? Oh, he didn't get a lot of sleep. Maybe he just needs a hug. He was overly emotional, at school because he's just overstimulated. And so, giving him just that hug and the relatability, being able to say in that moment when your son says, I never get to go first. Gosh, buddy, I know how that feels. I've been, in that place where I didn't get to go first either. And have them talk about it. And maybe you'll get to a deeper place with that. Maybe there is something, that he's wanting to share about that a little bit more, and just having an open dialogue instead of having the right thing to say, or even that right, like, confident booster thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, simply just being there, stopping what you're doing, and relate to what they're saying.
Yeah, I agree. I have, Shannon and I talked about this a lot just with our journey in our years of being moms, that all of our children are different. And between us, Shannon and I have 7 boys, and really every single one of them is different. Every single one of them is motivated by different things, or more emotional about different things. And so it really becomes this, like, how do I be present for this kid when sometimes what they're doing or saying doesn't make sense to me at all? Like, this is crazy. Or like, what are you upset about? Like, of course you have friends. What about Johnny? That for me, just validating it will also make it last a little bit less long. That you're like, gosh, I know, like, that is so hard that happened to you. My oldest was just a pretty easy kid. And I remember when he was in like 1st or 2nd grade, there was a big birthday party. Like, everybody was talking about it, and they handed out invitations at school, which I hate doing. Don't do that, moms. And and he was left out. And so it was like every boy but like two were invited to this big like skating party or something. Mm-hmm. And I was really upset by it. And I could tell he was being kind of quiet that afternoon. And I said, Jake, how are you feeling about not being invited to, his name actually was Johnny, to Johnny's birthday party? And he said he could probably only invite 15 people, and I was 16th. And I thought, like, whoa, you are like so much wiser than I am. My child that was born after him would have been like, everybody hates me and I'm never invited to anything. Like, he would have really overreacted to that. And then he also would have been mad at me about it. That's just like, he would take it out on me that he didn't get invited to little Johnny's birthday party. Mm-hmm. And for me, what Jake was feeling was true. That he was like, I don't know, I was probably close, but I just didn't make it. And then what he was feeling really felt right for him. It really would feel authentic. And so if our kids are feeling something, just like if we're feeling something, like if I'm feeling grouchy, I really do feel it. It really does feel awful in that moment. And if it's validated for him, I think that he'll feel safer.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so, I've noticed that with my own kids too. I mean, your tendency is you want to like fix it. You want to change the situation for them, you know? So when they say like, oh, I never win, it's like, oh, you know, you just want, oh, sure you do. And you want to just like boost them up. And I do think, you know, think about your own like tendency, like when you're having a really, awful moment and you go to your partner or a friend and you know, you just sometimes want a hug. You don't want someone to offer you like, oh, no, you don't, and like discount what you're feeling, you know, and
that's
say,
not true.
Yeah,
that's not true.
Of course people want to be your friend. And you're like, no, you don't want, and they give you all these suggestions like, no, you just in that moment want to be hugged and want the time and the space to share your feelings. And so, and then I'm thinking about what I'm relating to. Like right now, I have a 2-year-old who's almost 3, and he is starting to say bad words. Mm-hmm. And his favorite, and now these are really not, they're bad in terms of like his little world, which is, thank you, Pixar, for idiot is the one. He loves to say, you're an idiot. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't even know what it means, but he's heard that from Toy Story and all those other movies.
Fun to say.
Yeah. And then the other one is, well, he says, I hate you. You're a meanie poo. I about died yesterday because he went downstairs after dinner and he had pizza on his hands. And Chris was like, you know, trying to get his attention. Don't go downstairs till you wash your hands. Well, he has this thing about washing his hands anyway. And so he went downstairs. Well, Chris went to get him. And then he just had a ballistic fit. And so Chris washed his hands. And then actually he just ran down. I mean, his face was red. You're a meanie poo! And then he's just trying to express himself. And, you know, if we got triggered, we could have easily, how dare you, you know, and try to like.
Yeah, you're going to time out. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, I really had to say, you know, I could see like all he wanted that pizza on his hands. He kept saying, I want the pizza back on my hands. Because he had no control in that moment. He had no like way to fully express himself except to call us a meanie poo and run. And so we let him express that. He had to have that tantrum. We let him have it out. And then we hugged. And then I told him, you know, I know how, and I really tried to relate and say, I know that you didn't, you know, how did that feel when Daddy wiped that off your hands? So we went back to the kitchen. We put a little pizza back on the hands. And then he got to wipe it off. And then he said, I'm all better now. You know, and then done. Like
it feels like a choice instead of a, yeah, it feels like he got to choose if he washed his hands or not, instead of people are always making me do things.
Yeah, and that I think really does build inner confidence.
I think it does
Going back to the confidence topic, it's like it then puts it back in their court, you know, and all along we weren't judging him, we weren't reacting. Don't believe, you know, we've reacted before, but in that moment it was just like, okay, just let him go through it and hug him and kind of let him have that sighing moment, that release, and then move on.
Yeah, and like what's really going on for him right now has zero to do with pizza or washing his hands. It has to do with, you know, like, validate me, dude. Like, I don't feel good about you bossing me around all the time. I think it's really hard for the youngest children too. My youngest really struggles with I think everybody in his life is always, telling him what to do.
Yes.
I noticed last night, my youngest is 12, and he was acting, I'm not even kidding, like he was 2 years old. That he was walking to go take a shower with his chin down and his shoulders slumped. And he was like trying to be really visible that he was upset about something. And I think all of us, the rest of us, were just talking and kind of ignoring him. And so then he was like doing it and like, making noises. And he got out of the shower. And I said, do you need to sit with me? And he came over and sat on my lap and like curled up in a little ball. And my husband came over and sat with us. And then I got to thinking, I've worked a lot this week. I've been gone almost every night. My husband was out of town. And so he's just been like,
he needs some rest.
yeah, he just needed some like literal like FaceTime with mom and dad for a little bit and fell asleep in my arms, which I have to say was darling. And I loved every second of it. I know. But if I take a moment and I'm like, okay, what does he need right now? What does he need right now? That usually kind of works itself out.
That actually is probably a good segue because it reminds me of our interview that's coming up next week. And we are so excited about it, but I won't even tell you who it is. You'll be surprised. But she talked about toddler moments and how when we go through the toddler stage, our kids, we have that resistance and kind of that stomping around and that kind of direct experience we have to have for ourselves. And she talks about how even now as she has adult children, they have their toddler moments, and we do too. We all have that kind of stomping around that we have to do. And, it's cool. So check out the new interview coming up next week.
You'll love it.
And thank you for being here. Join our Mindful Mama Movement group. Post your questions. And as we wrap up, we want to end with a Mindful Mama moment. And I think really it's just look at your own life and is there some mama guilt that you're just ready to let go of? Is there something keeping you up at night? Some thoughts that maybe you're labeling it, that you didn't do it quite right. What is it in your life that you're just ready to start a new day with and share in our group? And we'll just keep the discussion going and we'll be offering a new Q&A session real soon.
Thanks so much.
Okay, bye.
Open your heart and your soul, follow. Take time to breathe, 'cause we never know. We'll gather up all your brothers and sisters, all your mom and tell your dad that you love them and miss them, 'cause tomorrow may